All right, everybody, welcome to episode 3 of On Film with Kevin McCarthy. And I wanted to do a proper introduction for my guest this week because he's somebody who I consider to be a dear friend, somebody who has encouraged me a lot in my career. He is a massive reason why I'm even doing this podcast. Next to my wife, Annie, Ryan has been somebody who has supported my work for a long time. And as you're going to hear in this conversation, we go back in a way like 20 years. We didn't know each other in 2005 when I saw Just Friends, and that became the first movie that I ever reviewed, which you're going to hear about on the show. But that name, Ryan Reynolds, and that movie became a jump starter to my career in that way. And I don't know that I'd be sitting here doing movie interviews or reviews if it wasn't for that film and that experience and getting a ticket to that movie to see it before it came out. That gave me access to review a film before the release, which gave me an upper hand in a way because I got to see a movie before anybody else did. And so having Ryan on my show is really full circle. And I can't tell you how kind Ryan is in words. It's beyond words. And the beauty of this conversation and the beauty of what Ryan has given to the world in terms of his art, but also just in terms of him being a person, I feel is very parallel to John Candy. And John Candy, I Like Me is the new documentary that Ryan has produced, directed by Colin Hanks, features incredible interviews from Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray, as well as Macaulay Culkin, Catherine O'Hara, so many amazing people. Robin Duke, obviously Jennifer and Christopher Candy, Rose Candy. I mean, there's so many amazing people in this documentary that really bring John Candy to life. And this is a documentary that's streaming on Amazon Prime Video starting October 10th. And Ryan was here when we recorded this interview in Los Angeles because we're doing an event tonight where we're going to be talking about the film, and they're going to have some special guests. And I say tonight as I'm recording this, so obviously by the time you see this, it won't be tonight anymore. But the reason why Ryan and I were able to connect in LA was because I am moderating the event tonight for the showing of John Candy, I Like Me, and then we're going to be going on tour together, which is really cool. And Ryan was so kind to ask me to be a part of this special event. So just wanted to give Ryan a proper introduction. He's the real deal. He's as you'll hear in the interview in the segment itself, that like this podcast really came to be because he gave me a longer interview slot for Deadpool Wolverine with Sean Levy and Hugh Jackman, and that led to my ambition and hunger for longer form conversations to dive deep into the craft of actors and filmmakers. So without further ado, I want to introduce my guest, Ryan Reynolds, and thank you for listening to the show. This is episode 3 of On Film with Kevin McCarthy. Ryan Reynolds.
Kevin McCarthy.
Welcome to On Film with Kevin McCarthy.
Thank you very much. It's very nice to be on film with Kevin McCarthy.
I wish we were shooting on 35 or
70.
We're shooting on 65
I think you
now.
are on, you got CinemaScope back there, I thought.
I think I see Kaminsky back there and Spielberg.
I feel like I see John Ford, the bloodless ghost of John Ford.
Do you?
Boy, that is, wow, the one eye, the whole, wow, okay.
Is this post-Searchers or before or after?
Oh, this is way post. Okay. Yeah, we're talking, yep. Right out of the grave. Okay.
Do you know the date on the logo there? 7/3/91 is the date Terminator 2 opened in theaters, and my favorite movie of all time. And
you
that's
paid
why
$3.
Well, this ticket is like obviously it's made to look like an old ticket stub.
Yeah.
Do you remember a pivotal theatrical experience that you saw growing up that meant that kind of gave you that idea of the communal experience?
I do. I have two. I have two sort of moments of like that really felt like it changed my life in some way. The first was seeing Stand By Me.
Yeah.
In the movie theater, Oak Ridge Mall in Vancouver, British Columbia. My mom worked part-time at Tie Rack, selling ties there. And
big fan of your mom, by the way.
My mom, Tam, she's the best.
Shout out.
She is the best. And I went and saw Stand By Me with my brother because it was rated R. You don't think about that movie as a rated R film.
No.
One of the best lines of all time. what are you going to do, kid? Shoot all of us? No, Ace. And it's wobbling. I remember how much it's just you. What a terrifying thing to hear from a child.
Yeah.
And then, so that was big because what I saw were kind of like not peers, but people my age. Not just performing, but performing at a really, really high level.
Yeah.
You know, the caliber of acting, and that was just exceptional. You know, you got to look back at the guys like Corey Feldman, you know, River Phoenix, Jerry O'Connell, Will Wheaton, Kiefer Sutherland, then the whole gang of like what still feels like the cast of Lost Boys standing behind him. In what most people don't realize is a Stephen King adaptation, directed by one of the most, I think, underserved and underrated directors of all time, Rob Reiner.
Can we talk about his run, by the way? When Harry Met Sally, Spinal Tap,
Yeah.
American President,
Yeah.
Stand By Me. I mean, Harry Met Sally.
Yes, I was gonna. There's a huge one there somewhere.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable to think of what he did.
Yeah.
Now, this is an actor,
Right.
who came out. You know, it's. I think Ethan Hawke said that. Really resonated with me. Like, you know, some of the best directors are writers, performers. You know, some of the hardest people to work with as a director is a cinematographer.
And what was the second movie?
The second movie for me was The Matrix.
And we've discussed this before, because that was a film. I know where I was, who I was with. I was with my uncle, my dad, my brother, and we went out for pizza after the movie was over. I remember telling my dad, I am buying that the day it comes out on DVD. And he goes, no, you're not. It's rated R. You only watch it that one time, and then you can go back to it later.
Was Matrix 1 rated R?
It was rated R.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. Of course it was,
Remember where you were when you saw that?
Of course I do. I was at, I've never lived in Malibu, but for some reason, I went to dinner in Malibu with my then girlfriend, Traylor Howard, who's still a buddy of mine.
Really?
Yep. And we were on two guys are going on a pizza place together. We went and saw The Matrix at like that little, there's a little theater, I don't know if it's still there or not. I haven't lived in LA in 15 years, but it was a little theater that just showed one movie at a time. And it was The Matrix. And bought a ticket. We went in, sat down, watched the movie, went back out, bought another ticket, went in, sat down and watched it again.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing like seeing that movie for the first time.
There's nothing like seeing that movie for the second time.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, there are films that get better the second time you watch them, of course. But like, I ask this question sometimes, and The Matrix is usually the answer to this question: the movie that you wish you could erase the memory of and then re-experience, having not known the movie. Is that your go-to, or would there be another one for you for that?
Oh,
like you imagine seeing Planes, Trains for the first time.
Watch Planes, Trains, Automobiles for the first time. That would be heaven.
Yeah.
There's a weird movie I love called How to Get Ahead in Advertising, starring Richard E. Grant.
I have not seen this film.
It's great.
Okay.
I mean, as somebody who, you know, is slightly immersed in the marketing world.
Slightly.
It's pretty cool. I mean, it's just it's bananas. It's bonkers. Gonzo kind of movie. That's one I wish I could erase and see again. Definitely, I think, you know, just when I think about the singularity of that experience of Stand By Me, that's one that I would love to do over.
I got to timestamp this for a moment because we're sitting here 20 years later from a very pivotal moment in my career. The first movie I ever reviewed, I've told you this, is Just Friends. There was a word-of-mouth screening for that movie at my college, at George Mason University. They were handing out these word-of-mouth tickets, and it was 2005. And after I saw it, I did my first ever broadcast movie review.
Yeah.
That changed my whole career going forward because then I got to go on the radio and TV more often. Years later, we become friends.
Yeah.
And then I'm sitting here in this studio in LA today because of your encouragement. And I say this because my wife and you are the two people that I credit for why I was able to make the jump from leaving Washington, D.C., working in local television, and starting my own long-form show. And that's because we did a longer-form interview, you and I, for Deadpool Wolverine with Hugh Jackman and Sean Levy. You made that interview happen more than the 5 minutes I was scheduled for. And it gave me an appetite for longer form discussion. So I just wanted to timestamp that and say, we're sitting here. I mean, that's 20 years of history.
That's wild.
And now we're here.
Well, I'm sitting here for a very specific reason as well, is that you're what I consider to be the best modern film journalist alive.
Wow.
And I say that for a number of reasons. One is that you have an expansive and pretty mind-blowing film library, literally, and in your mind. And that is a treasure, you know? And also that you are one of the few guys that are, you know, you can appreciate what we were talking about, John Ford even.
Yeah.
Like, just a great example of like a guy that you appreciate, but you know a lot about him. You know how he shot his movies, you know, all those sorts of things. But you also love The Karate Kid.
I also love Fast and Furious.
Yes. This is unusual, and I believe it's important because people love to experience joy in movie theaters. Movie theaters are very important. They are a part of the fabric of American culture. They're part of the fabric of international and global culture. And they are one of the few places where we get to bring people together, where our, you know, shitty, fucking addictive identity politics are abandoned at the door. And we all have this great experience together. And I think it's really important to not gloss over or overlook popular films.
Yes.
In the same way, important smaller movies are matter as well. I mean, they can coexist. I want to work in an industry where those coexist and that mid-range movie lives again. But I'm here because of that. And when I look at these junkets and I see, you know, Kevin McCarthy's on the thing, 5 minutes is a bummer.
Yeah.
It's a bummer for everybody, right? We all understand at these junkets that I have a job to do, you have a job to do. You need to get something that you can bring back that is valuable. It's a soundbite, it's a whatever. And my job is to make sure that people understand that what this movie's about or why it's worth seeing. Or, you know, and you sometimes can't really get into an in-depth conversation in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You need more time. And it's like, I love movies because you'll start talking about them and you'll veer off into something that's just life. Yeah. And like, that's what they do. And that's what they do for us. You know, when we talk, you know, my God, our text exchanges and stuff they're epic.
Like 10 paragraphs, like talking about like Buster Keaton. And the amount of times we talked about David Lean and the left to right aspect
and how it's ruined my life. Yeah.
Talk about wait, how is that ruined? Like this is so interesting because I went and saw Lawrence of Arabia recently in 70 millimeters, one of the greatest theatrical.
I remember you texting me about it.
I was freaking out, but every time I watch that movie now, I think about what you said about left to right, and I think about that Deadpool Wolverine scene along the track, the shot along the bus.
Yeah.
This is obviously David Lean inspired in the sense that like you nerd out about those types of things, but also these are technical decisions that service the narrative.
Of course.
It services the emotional. In Lawrence of Arabia, they're going left to right because of
it's a journey, and it's you want the audience to feel this, you know, inexorable march toward a destination, and every movie has a march toward a destination of some kind. And the problem is like you don't need to adhere to this rule all the time. Like, I will do many movies where I will enter from the right, you know, but I don't like it. So I watch the take, and there's something about it I don't like. And it wasn't until maybe several years later I went, oh, it's the David Lean thing. That got in my head.
You didn't even know why you felt it.
No.
Oh,
I remember watching Turner Classic Movies one night, and then they talked about David Lean, they talked about the film, and they talked about the making of it. And I think they were interviewing actually Peter O'Toole, the late Peter O'Toole. And he mentioned the left to right thing, and it just got in the back of my head somehow. And I was done for. And then we're at some event where we're screening Deadpool Wolverine. You were there as well. You were moderating.
Oh,
and
this is
Hugh
great.
Just blew my mind because he was a Shakespearean thing, right?
Yeah, it was it was about entering the stage.
Yes,
and wasn't it like villains entered from the right?
Villains enter from the right. Yeah, royalty enters from the back or something like that. It was like a whole thing. All I'm thinking are like sex jokes the whole time. But like it was like we got schooled by Mr. Jackman and rightfully so.
We did take a quick coffee break, and what's funny about that is that we have been texting probably since 2018. What year was Deadpool 2? 2018?
2018, yeah.
Right, and we have been trying to get coffee since like every time I'm in New York or LA, we'll set it up. And then obviously something will happen with the schedule.
I was just talking to Sophia over there, who works at Maximum Effort with me, and I was saying, thank you so much for encouraging me to say no sometimes.
Yeah.
Not this time, but really, like I tend to overfunction, and I tend to say yes far more than I should. I think because I have the people pleaser mentality, something you and I both talked about.
Yeah.
And it's get you into trouble sometimes, and 4 kids.
Yes.
So, you've got that kind of constant need to get home.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I have no social life at all. This is it. We're having coffee now.
We're having coffee now. And I'm honored to have coffee with you
Ditto.
now. Let's dive into the documentary because I've seen it 3 times. The best compliment I can give to you on this is I actually feel like I got to spend time and meet John Candy. And every time I watch it, it's almost like I get to chill with him for 2 hours.
Yeah, that's the feel.
Do you know what I mean? And so I want to start off with this because the art of the movie trailer is something that I'm really a fan of. I love trailers. The trailer for this doc is one of the best cut trailers I've ever seen. You use a song in this trailer that you and I geek out a lot about, which is Hans Zimmer's score from True Romance. Right. Talk about why you felt that particular piece of music spoke to John Candy and his vibe and that generosity and that kindness, because that song.
Yeah.
But what
well,
did
that
you?
Song is I mean, there are iterations of that song that go way back, right?
Yes.
I mean, there's I believe 3 Badlands.
Terrence Malick.
Yep, has a very these 2 songs have a very similar sort of intention or feeling, and then I think it goes back like 100 years to some. I don't know the name.
Neither do I.
Hopefully there's a chyron right here that tells us.
We'll put it in.
Yeah. It's but it's sort of like a little steel drum kind of feel, but there's something like effervescent and light about it. But there's also like a darkness to it. I don't know why. I can't. That's the best I can do to articulate it. I think I've used that piece of music 4 times.
Yeah.
I've licensed it 4 times from Hans Zimmer and whatever publishing house. Of course, when you're doing a doc, this is the first time I've had to call in the favor, where you say, would Mr. Zimmer be open to, reduced publishing
interesting.
On the song? Otherwise, we would probably have gone with a different song.
Okay.
But and they were great.
How does that call work? Do you make that call?
I do make the call.
To Zimmer's people.
To Zimmer's people.
Do you get Zimmer on the phone?
I don't. I would normally, but I don't because I don't want to put them in an uncomfortable position. I want to give them the opportunity to have a boundary.
Interesting.
So I don't want to call and hey, it's me. So I say to the rep, I've licensed the song full price every other time, and I will do so again. This is a documentary though with no budget, and if there's any way we could find a way to make it work, I'd love to feature the song. If not, no problem. No hard feelings. Great. And they were great. They made it work. However they had to do it, and I find that happens all the time. Though. It's like if you engage personally, instead of having reps and those kinds of people call on your behalf, the game of telephone just muddies everything.
When did you realize that? Like, when did you realize, okay, I can pick up the phone and make this call, and this will make the process so... I mean, because generally speaking, you would think that someone who does what you do at the level you do would have somebody handling those things. And
most people do.
Most people do. So how did you decide I'm going to kind of shift that a bit?
I could tell you exactly how that happened. I was post Green Lantern. I was in, a difficult position in terms of like the future. I was like, wow, what am I going to, I'm having trouble finding anything worthwhile that I might get to be a part of. And that's when I sort of thought like, if I'm going to fail, I'd rather be the architect of my own demise than just a passenger. Like, who wants to be the passenger? Because like when I do a lot of these films pre-Deadpool, that's whether they win or lose, whether they work or don't work, it's my name that goes up there. They don't. The people that are making the creative decisions, it's not their name that goes up there. So I wanted to make creative decisions. I wanted some authorship. I didn't do that in like a high pressure way. Deadpool happened. And when Deadpool happened, we had no money to make this movie at a scale that would, really reach a broader audience. So We had to make every dime feel like a quarter.
Necessity is the mother of invention.
That's where that was born
Yeah.
for me. And you know, I thankfully worked with people who were like-minded. Tim Miller, great with that kind of thing too. But as the lead producer, I was, you know, I had to make calls like to Chevy. You know, we have a car that flips and flips and flips. And
Yeah.
I needed SUVs, and they're expensive, and they're going to get damaged and that kind of thing. So I just thought, well, can I just call Chevy? Does anyone have Chevy's number? They're like Chevy Chase? No, the car. The company, GM. Like, who's there at product placement? Like, there must be someone there. Tracked the person down, called them. They said no. It was fine. But like, I had now just been indoctrinated into something that I would then use forever. I made a connection with that person and called back, I think about 2 months later, and got cars at a heavy discount, used vehicles that could take a beating. And that paid off. And then I just realized, like, that's how this is, you know, put skin in the game, whether it's emotional, money, anything, and you get a result that is much different. Even my own salary in that movie, I put it on screen instead of, you know, being paid. I really pushed all the chips in the middle of the table on that one. And it just taught me everything, not intellectually. Like, I wasn't going, oh, necessity is the mother of invention, or constraint. I was feeling that. It wasn't until years later I could say, like, life isn't a TED talk. You can't just go like, oh, well, yeah, saw it, identified it, nailed it. You know, you want to, you know, you slowly come to that realization. And I always tell young actors, young filmmakers, people working in different industrial sectors, like, we're all winging it. Just no one wants to say it. You know, we're winging it to some degree. You're also, you know, betting on yourself and your experience and your ability to land a plane, and to be honest and to kind of have integrity when you're working. So all of those things, and saying I don't know. Like, I don't trust someone who's unwilling to say I don't know. I have trouble with that. So that was kind of where all that was born, and then it kind of flourished after that. More and more, you know.
And you could argue that led to the phone calls you got to make to Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd, in a sense. And for people who haven't seen the documentary yet, there's incredible interviews: Macaulay Culkin, Steve Martin, Martin Short, Catherine O'Hara. It is remarkable. But there's two that you actually conducted yourself, which are Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray.
Yeah.
And so I was interested because, as an interviewer, I'm curious how, like, you kind of flip the script a little bit. You're now interviewing the people that I am lucky enough to speak to.
Right.
Where did you pull from to know how can I be an interviewer?
Well, I mean, you know, for starters, it's making people feel comfortable and safe. You know, like, you never want someone to feel like you're there to catch them or.
Right.
You know, I was genuinely no one went after Bill, because there's literally a documentary about trying to get an interview with Bill Murray. It just doesn't happen. So
it happens in the journalist side too. Like, I've had interviews booked with him and we go, is he going to show up? Is he not going to show up?
Maybe, yeah.
And we're just lucky if he's there.
He's very eccentric. Yeah. And he's, you know, and thankfully, like, it's pretty delightful, you know, as well.
Yeah. It's like a rush.
But it was hard. I mean, getting also, even getting Macaulay, you know, was tough. I did the pre-interview for him, and I think Shane Reed did the interview. Now, Colin Hanks did the lion's share of, you know, Steve Martin, Marty Short.
He interviewed his
Catherine
dad.
Yeah, his own dad. Yeah, which I would have a tough time with that, because my dad's dead. Like, really hard to interview a dead person. Super quiet. The interview with Bill, though, happened from badgering to some degree. You know, he used to apparently only, you know, deal with facts. Like, you'd have to fax Bill Murray. Can you imagine? Like, and, you know, he would either respond or he wouldn't. Well, you know, that technology is a little outmoded, so I assume he's got a cellular telephone. So I called somebody that had his number, but I didn't want them to give me his number. I said, I want a friend of a friend of a friend. I don't want you on the hook for being the guy that did it, you know, that said, oh, here's his number. You know, I just don't want to put you in that position. So they put me in touch with someone who knew someone who knew someone. I got a number. The answering machine was a Greek shipping company. I left a message anyway.
What was the message you left?
Hey, Bill, it's Ryan Reynolds. Don't hang up. I would love to interview you about John Candy. You know, if that is something you'd be amenable to, I'd really appreciate it. I've got a whole host of people that, love and adore this man and love talking about him. And I have a feeling that you might as well. Yes. And it pays $75 million. Okay. Bye for now. He did not call back. But I tried a couple more times. And then eventually I got a call back and out of the blue. And he was just kind of like, he sort of, I think he was testing me maybe. I don't know. He opened with a couple pleasantries, but then we right into, hey, Brian, who would you say is the godfather of the spit take? And okay, well, the spit take. Okay, I'm thankful in this moment because my university was a guy named Eric Gilland who's passed away, but he was one of my closest friends in the world. Died last September, so a year ago, and he really just put vaudeville box sets in front of me, Jack Benny, all the Buster Keaton, Harold Lloyd, Chaplin, all that kind of stuff. Like, just gave me this like education in that, and then put me in a writer's room, like a writer's circle, basically, with writers who I had no business being in rooms with at all. I didn't even graduate high school. I had no, so that was like the most accelerated education one could have. So when Bill Murray asks you, who was the godfather of the spit take, you need to listen more carefully if you're me, because I only hear who did it first.
Yeah.
There's a difference.
That's kind of where my mind went too. I'm
Right.
like honestly, psychologically speaking, that's where I was like,
Exactly.
what's a great spit take?
So I thought Desi Arnaz. I'd heard that he'd done one that was kind of controversial or something. And he just goes, wrong, it was Danny Thomas. And I'm thinking he's going to hang up, and he doesn't. But I sort of say, well, look, hold on now. Like Desi, okay, Desi, and now I'm just kind of bullshitting a little bit, but I'm like, Desi did it first. That doesn't mean to say that, Danny Thomas isn't the godfather of the spit take. Think of it as basketball. Naismith invented it, Canadian. America perfected it. In this instance, Naismith or Canada is Desi Arnaz, and America is Danny Thomas, the godfather of the spit take, of course. And he seemed to accept that. And then, next thing I knew, I'm sitting down with him. After there's more to the story, but I'll just leave it at that. Sitting down with Bill Murray, and I said I promised 10 minutes. And I had a little alarm in my pocket that went off 10 minutes into the interview. I know how you feel now because that's double the time you normally
get. Yeah.
And I got nowhere. And
Wow.
I was fine with it. I just said, Mr. Murray, man of my word, thank you for the time. It's 10
The
minutes.
agreement was 10 minutes.
Correct. And then he just said, no, it's all right. Let's keep going.
So it was like he was testing to see.
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll never know. And then he went an hour and a bit. I mean,
Wow.
Yeah, it was beautiful. You can't, more than an hour, you're not going to get much more.
Right.
I mean, it was really wonderful. And he was so generous with his time. He was so generous with me, generous with the crew.
You can actually hear you in the documentary.
Yes,
There's this
Cardinal
great
Sin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, I actually kind of thought it was cool. It was like, and you're so off mic that you have to almost lean in as an audience member to hear.
Yeah.
Because he was talking about, you were asking about,
I
he
said
was
he was
sucking.
so he's like over the top, or he's sucked in the scene or something.
This was the Sidney Pollack thing, right?
The Sidney Pollack play, and he's really like found that to be like way off base.
Yeah.
But no, he milked it. Like he really felt there was a difference between milking it and overplaying it, which he's right. So yeah, it was just like one of those wild experiences. But like these guys, like I studied. I mean, God, man, I watched their films so many times, rewinding the VHS tape, hitting play again, trying to do the lines the way they did, trying to do the lines as fast as Dan Aykroyd, because there's almost nobody in the business who could speak at the speed, the WPM, the words per minute that came out of that man's mouth was astonishing.
It's like him and Jim Carrey.
Yeah,
Like Jim,
I mean,
wow,
just like fast.
Yeah.
Like what's it like up there? And so Dan, interviewing Dan was really something for me, but another tough guy to find.
You've told this story, but you actually slept at his house.
Sure did.
To get this interview. I mean, you and I were texting about this while you were going there, and I'm like, there's this great video of you in the car. Like
in a
he's driving.
1922 Pierce automobile, which I guess like the early government used as like a limo. Like
Did he
it was
pick
kind
you
of,
up?
He picked me up in one of the Lincoln Town cars that were in Grosse Pointe Blank. Yeah, kid, got 5 of these for 50 grand. You know, like when he asked me to come over, when he agreed to the interview, he said, "I'll tell you what, kid. You come up here, you have dinner with me, you spend the night. Next morning, we do the interview. You get the fuck out." Like, yes, sir, done.
But I mean, but when he's talking like that, but do you take that seriously, or no? You know he's joking. Like when he says that, like obviously he's not going to tell you to get the F out.
I don't take. Yeah, but like I think he knows me enough that, like, you know, we trade personas a little bit. Like he knows that. It's like
that bit in the documentary when Dan Aykroyd's talking about meeting John Candy, and he goes, "You a doctor?" He goes, "Sometimes."
Yeah.
It's kind of that vibe of like you're on the same wavelength, but it's also kind of serious.
But these are guys that don't hurt for a living. They're you know, I know him. It's like I can meet somebody who I've never met before, and I can be like, "Wow, that's a terrible fucking shirt," you know, and they'll laugh knowing that I don't mean they have a terrible fucking shirt. I'm just making a joke or whatever, and they understand. So it's, you know, sometimes your persona helps you in that regard. It gives you the benefit of the doubt. But he was so generous, so kind, like, you know, as Canadian as it gets. You know, and also just really like offered up he really indulged me in the stuff off camera, asking questions about his life, asking questions. Do you know he's a distant cousin of mine?
I think you were on Kimmel the other night talking about that, I believe. When did you learn that?
Well, I used to, every summer I would go out to Edmonton, Alberta, where they shot SCTV actually. And I would go to the West Edmonton Mall, but I would live with my Aunt Vera Aykroyd. And Aunt Vera, you know, the whole place just smelled like mothballs. And you know, she would just, I don't even recall her saying one word to us, me and my brother, but we would just go to West Edmonton Mall every other day. Yeah, which is a big like theme parky kind of mall. But so that was also like helpful for Dan. Dan didn't know that, you know, and just spending time with him was like really special to me. I was like, this is the thing I never take for granted with all of these guys is like you're up close with your heroes. You know, these are people that, you know, that whole group, every single person that is interviewed in this documentary are people who defined a generation of not just comedy, but of creators, people that carved their own way. I mean, it's hard to find the comps. Like with Dan, I said, who influenced you? Like who's your influence, Dan? Well, kid, jazz, music.
Well, comedy is music.
Yeah, but you wouldn't expect that. You would think like, oh, you know, you'd hear some sort of old vaudevillian, you know, red buttons, kid, loved red buttons. You're like, nope, just music, you know, and that was his thing, you know, walking through his home, wrote Ghostbusters here, you know, like
he showed you the
room.
Spot?
Yeah, the room where he wrote the movie. Like, it's like, you know, that's a goosebumpy kind of thing for me.
But that's why I love you, man, because like you actually care and genuinely have passion for the industry that you're in. And I think a lot of people sometimes are in it just for the money and the accolades, and I get it, but like you actually care. I want to bring up Robin Duke because she has a brilliant thought process in this documentary where she talks about John's audition at Second City. And she says that the guy
into doing
he was duped into doing it, but then the guy that he was auditioning with wouldn't stop talking, and John listened and got the role. And I'll use that listening as a transition from interviewing, because a lot of interviewing is listening, but also acting is listening. So there's 2 parts to this question. How important do you find listening to be in the acting that you do? And you and I have talked about this before, listening to your movies and how they speak to you and how you find your film by listening to it. And Dan Pasternak, who did the Q&As for the John Candy doc prior to us meeting today.
You're also doing the Q&As
tonight
at the record show
in LA, which I'm really excited about. But talk about listening and what listening has granted you from movies and also acting.
Well, it's kind of everything. When I meet young actors who are like, how do I get in? What's the best way to get into business? Well, first off, like you're doing it. You got to do it. Like
it's like the Conan quote, don't try it. You just do it.
Yeah. I mean, Spielberg was directing films. He wasn't getting paid when he was young, but he was directing movies. He was making them. He was born to do it, you know? So, you know, that's a great way to make it happen. But also, I always recommend improv comedy. Not necessarily like, you know, RADA or like any other Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts and that sort of thing, because you're doing soliloquies and you're doing monologues and you're all kinds of stuff. But in improv comedy, usually there's a wellspring of pathos that is like being drawn from, but it's also all listening, and you're always inviting the other person in. You're not trying to win.
Which John Candy was famous for. Like, he was never trying to one-up anybody. And the doc really explores that. He just wanted to create a collaborative process.
You want just someone to hit the ball back.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, and that's what it really feels like. So, listening is everything. And, you can always tell, and it's usually younger actors who have rehearsed in the mirror. And that's, you don't do that because it just locks you into something. And it feels wrong. And when we talk about listening to your movie, that's a great, it's a great ace card when you need it. It gives you confidence in your movie because not everything has to be perfect.
Yeah.
You got to be open to what you're looking at, what you're seeing. It might be a rainy day when it was supposed to be a sunny day. It might be somebody might have gotten sick and jumped in their place. You may be feeling weird that day or anxious or anything. You got to use it and listen to it. And sometimes your movie's screaming at you, but then you meet a young actor who's really got an idea of what's supposed to happen in this take. And sometimes it's like a day player, somebody who's coming in just for the day, which is one of the hardest jobs in all of show business. Actors that come into a movie or a television show, they have 2 lines or 1 scene and they're done. That's hard. So you really have to kind of create ease and comfort for them so they can get into it. And I love doing this because I usually say 2 things. I go, okay, you've done it a bunch of times now. We got it. We're good, okay? We're going to do 2 more. 2 more takes. The first one, I want you to be as bad as possible. Just fucking terrible. Just go be awful. Let yourself just go. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to do it with you. I'm going to say weird stuff in weird ways. I don't know. See what happens. The second take, we're going to take 10 minutes. And then we're going to go do it. But you know that thing, and I always say, and everyone knows that, I go, when you're driving home at the end of a work day, when you shot something, anything, and you get in the car and you're halfway home and you're listening to some music and you go, oh, I should have done that.
Yeah.
Let's do that now. So take 10 minutes, walk around, think about that thing you should have done. And we'll just do that too. We'll just get out of the way. So you won't have to have that moment in the car. You can keep listening to your Michael Bolton and just keep driving. Some easy listening, smooth ride. It's going to be great. And usually it's the bad take. That's the one that
because they have permission to not be in their heads and just fuck up if they do.
I say it all the time. Can't be good unless you're willing to be bad.
Which Bill Murray also talks about in the documentary about being bad actually helps you be better.
Yeah. When I talk to students, I'm always like, go suck.
Yeah.
Just go suck. Suck like at anything and everything. And that's how you're going to get good. You've got to experiment. SCTV is great for that because if you watch SCTV, it is genuinely genius at times. And then other times, it's bizarre. And then other times, it's terrible. But they put it all out there because that's the process. They're learning, they're growing. And yeah.
I want to bring up Mel Brooks. There's a quote in this doc that I have been thinking about since the first time I watched it, which is he was a total actor because he was a total person. I'm going to say that again. He was a total actor because he was a total person. There's a lot of parallels between you and John Candy. Obviously, there's the Easter eggs you put in your films, but there's also a lot of things as well. You're both business people. He owned a team. You owned a team. There's so many interesting parallels.
The bad ones too.
Like what?
Well, I wouldn't say bad. I'm not trying to cast aspersions on John. I know it's impossible, but John overfunctioned.
Yes,
and I overfunctioned.
Yeah, this is the people pleasing thing, and Conan has a great quote about that. And
it's great.
So the reason I want to bring that up is because I think you are the actor you are because of the person you are. You're somebody who is extremely generous, you're giving, you're caring, you care about everybody around you. And I think that affects the work that you do. I feel more emotionally connected to the characters I watch you do on screen because I know that you've lived a life that has given you those emotions.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of the question I wanted to ask, because before you became a dad, you were a certain artist. And then after you became a dad, I imagine that affects the artist you become. So if you think about the roles you've now done post becoming a father and kind of that part completing aspect of your life, Do you see a division between the artist you were before and after?
100%. 100%. I was trying on personalities like they were shirts. You know, I think that's a relatable thing to say because I think a lot of people do that.
Yeah.
You know, I would, if you caught me in my 20s, if I was talking to somebody who spoke a certain way or with a certain attitude, you'd see me almost mirroring it. You know, and that isn't a trait of empathy, of course, but it's also a trait of somebody who doesn't know themselves. And I remember I was giving a speech or a keynote at a university, and I said something about like the best superpower you could ever have is knowing who you are, just knowing yourself. You know, because I used an example. Somebody asked me as I was leaving, you hear this shout from the back, "When did you know?" And I was like, "What? And the guy says, "When did you know how you knew who you were?" And I said, well, I can give you a really dumb example. And part of it is having kids, you know, galvanizes that. But my dumb example is this. I read an article one day that said, like, I'm the worst. I should fucking disappear. And, like, awful, blah, 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 you know. And then I read another article that same day, and I remember it said something like, I should be given the Nobel Prize. And both of these articles, I felt nothing. And I felt nothing, not because I'm dead inside, which might be true, but because I know who I am in my story. That's a story someone else has about me that's really nice. That's a story that someone else has that's really not nice. Both of them, from their perspectives, are valid, but it's not my story. It's not my truth. It's not my, you know, no human being can be summed up in an article. So like that's when I knew. I was like, oh, wait a second, what is happening? Why do I feel that way? I was like, oh, I must know. I know who I am. That's amazing. That can be tested still. I'm not saying that makes you impervious to, you know, the feeling those things, but like, boy, howdy, man, that was when I really, you know, felt empowered and felt like I was a real, you know, and kids, like you said, is a big one. Like, imagine Will Ferrell. Think about it. If you think about it this way, he is so informed by having children.
Yeah.
Like, his sense of play, his sense of like on a dime flipping into rage, which is like somehow he does rage that doesn't have teeth. Like when you talk to Steve Higgins, he was 32 years on SNL, 33 years. He, you know, talks about Will. Will's one of the few people that could do rage, and in a live setting, like live audience, it doesn't push them away. They're invited in. Most comedians are encouraged to do frustration. So, and I love rage, like, you know, I love flying off the handle, you know, and doing it in a way that doesn't make anyone feel threatened, but is just clearly an example of somebody who is imploding. And you kind of know that when you have kids, because kids do that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, my kids, like, I can wake up in the morning. One of them is just like just like literally unhinges her jaw and just swallows me whole. Like, you know, and I'm just like, what did I do to deserve this? So, but it's fun, inevitably. At the end of the day, you're like, there's no teeth to it. It's like 10 seconds later, we're eating Lucky Charms together, you know, so.
But that affects the artist you are.
Well, yeah, you play.
It helps you in that sense. It's so interesting. Catherine O'Hara talks about this incredible quote where she says, even though he did distinctively different characters, John was always there. She's talking about John Candy obviously being a lot in his characters. And Macaulay talks a lot about that in the documentary, that a lot of John was in Uncle Buck. When you look at your filmography, where do you see yourself the most in the roles you've done? Like when you, like if you look back at the roles you've done, you go, all right, I see me there, I see me here. Like which ones do you think are you're in the most?
If I'm being honest, some of it is the early work is kind of, you know, I'm trying to do like National Lampoon's Van Wilder. I'm really just doing Chevy because I didn't know what to do other than that. I just sort of went, oh, I can do a Chevy Chase. Like, okay, he was a National Lampoon kind of guy. Like, let me try that. Later in my work, though, I think, you know, I guess like a lot of them are the maladaptive coping mechanisms that I shunned earlier, but now I'm using. You know, I deflect, you know, I help my own anxiety, helping dig myself out of it by deflecting and using humor. And, you know, I'll use humor when I'm deeply hurt by someone. Like I can be like, I've had moments where people have, done stuff that's like just so unthinkable, and I tend to make jokes about it. But on the inside, I'm sort of dying, and I'm sort of feeling like, wow, I don't want to go to cynicism. Like, I don't want to live in that state. I don't want that to be my operating system.
So the joke helps you through it?
Joke helps me through it. It bridges the moment, and it allows me to reflect on it when I can do that responsibly. Because you can't reflect on something instantly like that. You just don't, So making a joke and laughing about something is actually like 99% of the time effective, even though it's masking real hurt. And you learn that at a young age, and you kind of grows and morphs into something, and sometimes it can grow and morph into something that is like a positive, which is this business. But I would also say that John, when she says there was always an element of John there, that's also what made John a movie star.
Yeah.
Persona is a very kind of specific thing. When you think about movie stars through the ages, the John Wayne, Denzel Washington, like is a great example of a guy that he has a kind of persona. He's easily, I think, he's the greatest one of the greatest actors that I've ever had the pleasure to work with and watch and learn from. But Tom Cruise, there's a lot of there's persona there. That's what you go to see. You want to see that. And then there's actors who are just geniuses, chameleons. Vanish.
Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah. But if you ask like a 22-year-old, they might not know who that is. They might go, I found that it was wild that so many people that are under 30 didn't know who John Candy was.
In the documentary, John Candy is compared, I think, by Chris Columbus to Chaplin in City Lights. And this idea of like that silent era type of filmmaking, and I know you're a big Buster Keaton fan. When you see those silent era actors, what that is something that is still being utilized in your craft in filmmaking now.
Yeah.
Talk about the Buster Keaton aspect of your fandom in that way.
I mean, like early in my career, I'm stealing from one or two people. Now it's hundreds, maybe thousands. So that really is what I think shapes us, right? You're informed by the things you like. You're watching, I can see Jerry Lewis handing the baton to Jim Carrey. I could see, Jimmy Stewart handing the baton to Tom Hanks. I can, you can really kind of feel that. And humanity is an interesting thing to utilize in film because it's something you can't really wipe away. John had humanity and empathy and compassion, and you could see it no matter what he was doing. Tom Hanks does.
Yeah.
Jimmy Stewart played villains once in a while, like he did, and you'd still see this. You're like, I don't know, I trust you, and it's hard to kind of wipe that away. And early on, I really connected to a lot of those guys that created and formed the first sort of personas in film.
Yeah.
The Buster Keatons and that sort of stuff. But I also I steal from them all the time. And the only arguments I ever get into on a set is with the cinematographer. Because if you're shooting, like Deadpool's a good example, where it's clown work. I mean, it really is. Yeah. It's like I got to push through the suit. My wife, Blake, will always say, when I come home for the first month after the movie, I'm talking like I'm pushing through the suit still. And she'll say, "You're pushing through the suit." Really? Yeah.
Like you're overemphasizing things?
Yeah, I'm just I'm not with verbally, because my voice is for those movies is everything. My voice has to do the work that a microfacial expression would do, like the flicker of an eye somewhere. My voice has to do all that work. So not my voice, but my body, my neck, my
So you'll be in the kitchen just doing something?
Yeah, and my hand just instead of reaching for something, it'll be ooh, it's just it's all this sort of Marcel Marceau kind of stuff. So I watch guys but the frame is so important.
Yes.
So if the frame is, let's say belly button height, which is for me, don't go any closer than that. I'm going to use it Like, you don't see my hands in the frame. Like, I'm going to come up with a banana, a grenade, I'm going to have a gun, then I'm going to have a knife, then I'm going to have a little bomb, and then I'm going to have a fruit salad, and then I could do anything I want, you know? And if I got a couple of props guys down there, like, you know, I could do, you know. So it's especially if you don't comment on it, you know, you're just talking and you're just different things are coming. I like doing stuff like that because that's what they did. They just used the frame, they used what they had, but then it got into magic. You know, it's why you'll never really see a proper, I hope we see a proper Buster Keaton biography. But if you're going to do a movie about him, you got to do the stunts. The stunts are everything. And you can't get bonded for those kinds of stunts. Now, an insurance company will say, go fuck yourself.
Is there a stunt that you've done that you look back and go, I probably shouldn't have done that?
Hundreds.
Like, what's one you like go, that was a dumb decision?
Well, they're not dumb decisions until the consequence sets in, right? Like, you're kind of like, oh, I did that 50 times and it was great. And then the 51st time you break something. You know, I've broken so many bones and, you know, got concussions. I broke my neck on Safe House.
Did you?
Yeah, I didn't find out till later, though. I was having like trouble with my fingers, and I was like, what's going on? I went and got an x-ray.
Do you know the thing that broke your neck, like the stunt that did it?
Yeah, there's a fight with Joel Edgerton in the Safe House at the end of the movie.
Oh, wow.
And it's a really gnarly, like, hand to hand, but the way we designed it was to make it feel so real, like that these two guys would bite each other to survive. Like, it wasn't meant to feel like a choreographed swing, punch, knife, kick, grab, block, this. No, just like strangling, grabbing, grasping. Like, well, we go out a window at one point. Stunt guy did it once, I did it once, and both of us ended up totally screwed up. He ended up slicing his ear almost off, and a concussion as well. And I've worked with him a bunch of times too. And then I went out and I folded my body over my neck. Like, my neck landed and my body went that way. And I kept going though. I kept shooting.
Wow. That's pre-adrenaline, I guess, I'm assuming.
God, so much adrenaline. Last day too. It was like the last 2 days of shooting was this one fight. And it was ugly. And it was just, so that was one where you get, you know, and you're always getting nicks and bumps and all that stuff. That's part of the job, right? But I think now I'm much more like willing to go, yeah, if something's in the air, you can do that. Yeah, stunt guy can do. Yeah. Alex Kishkovich, who does a lot of the Deadpool stunts, he's former Cirque du Soleil. Like, you know, was working on The Revenant. Like, it was his first job. Can you imagine that? And
Did he play the bear?
Left in the middle. He ran away in the middle to go to Vancouver because he heard they were making a Deadpool movie. His whole life he worshipped this comic.
Wow.
And he couldn't believe it. And he got joined. He became the third stunt guy on the film. Within a week, he was the first #1 guy, and just genius. Incredible. You know, because the stuff he could do in the air was just like, it was a gravity didn't apply to him. So I'll step aside now, but it's always like glass always blows the wrong way with me. Like, it's supposed to blow out in a
like
scene.
The candy glass?
Yeah, but the candy glass will like cut your whole face. I mean, I did a movie where it exploded in my face, and I looked in the rearview mirror, and it was just like blood coming, because your head is so vascular. Blood streaming down my face, like Carrie, just like streams of it coming down my face, because I had these little chunks of candy glass stuck in my face. And of course, you go to the main pyro guy and go, I think it blew the wrong way, as you might notice. And they're panicking, and you're like, I'm fine. This is one of those things. They're little. We'll clean it up, and we'll be all right. But yeah, stunts are. I'm glad the Oscars, the Academy has finally kind of figured that out. Because a lot of us were petitioning Bill Kramer, who really was the engine behind it. He was really an advocate for it, and we thank Mr. Kramer very much.
Transitioning to something I want to bring up that I think is important. I think you and I originally bonded over mental health. I think it's something about, and we are lucky to live in a time where mental health is destigmatized in a way where I can sit here openly on a podcast and say I've had OCD and depression and anxiety all my life. I've been in therapy since I was 14. I've been on different medications. Yeah. So, but to say that out loud is something you couldn't do years and years ago. And the documentary, I think, does a really amazing job about touching on John Candy's weight and the mental health aspect and how those informed each other. Yeah. The mental health and the panic attacks and the things he was dealing with from the loss of his father when he was 5, and then the coping mechanisms, the eating and the drinking.
There's so much to unpack with that.
And not being able to actually speak out about how you're feeling and talking about that. Talk about that aspect of the documentary, how you were able to kind of find a way to put that in a way that's cautionary.
Yeah.
And it's kind of also goes to that Conan quote about being a people pleaser and kind of saying no and being able to actually, find out what's important in your life.
That line Conan O'Brien says was worth every ounce of energy put forward in this whole documentary, because
which is the idea of the industry being hard for people pleasers.
Yes, but I think that's broadly applicable to
100%.
any field, like any industry. If you're a people pleaser and you have mental health issues, you have got two problems that are antithetical to each other.
And that's me.
Right.
I'm one of those guys.
So if you're a people pleaser, you never want to burden anybody with your problems, right? And if you having a mental health issue, the only thing that you can do to get better is to center yourself.
Right.
It's a paradox that has killed people.
Yes.
And it's very tricky, and I think it was a huge piece of the puzzle with John. And when you talked about listening, right? Well, a documentary, that's I always think the fatal mistake when people make anything, and they're like, well, the way in is this, or I want it to be this, the story I want to tell. And it's like, well, hold on, you're making a documentary. You're not telling the story, you're listening to it. That's really it. Like you have to. I learned that on Welcome to Wrexham, like the docuseries. Like the more you just listen, they start coming out. Like it all starts happening. If you can sit with someone and not impose your gigantically terrible ideas on them in an interview, and instead just sit with them. Like if you could sit in silence for a second, or a minute even, and wait for something, it's amazing how forthcoming people become. So. Yeah, Conan really nailed it there with the people-pleasing thing. And I've spent my whole life grappling with anxiety and varying cousins and relatives of anxiety. And, because it's very much a spectrum. It's like look, a certain amount of anxiety is normal.
Right.
Like kids, a lot of kids will just be like, I have anxiety. And they'll talk about it like it's this untreatable thing that they're stuck with. And it's going to be the reason they can't do X, Y, and Z. And you got to push through that, And then there's like a kind of anxiety that it's sort of like nobody knows they're having a nervous breakdown until they're through it.
Yeah.
You're like, oh my God.
It happens so fast.
Wow. Yeah, you have that sort of. So I don't think like we're very good at like self-diagnosing ourselves, a lot of people are, but like mental health is about talking and communicating. And if you can do that and you can find somebody you feel safe with, whether it's a therapist or a friend or anyone, you unlock a lot of stuff and you start to go, oh, okay, I see what's normal. And then I see that over there, what happened, that's not normal. And that's okay to ask for help in that moment, or that's okay to seek like a professional opinion, because like you can go down that rabbit hole so fast, especially as a people pleaser, and and next thing you know, you're not here anymore.
Right.
Like it's a real issue that I think I'm so glad is people are opening up to. John, I think
it's cautionary tale.
Well, right, yeah,
yes,
and I think he was right at the cusp.
Yes,
of being able to talk about it.
Which is so sad.
Yeah,
because you think about what if he could have just opened up about that, because it's just sad now because you think of his son Chris, who's also in therapy, but he's learning from that.
Well, Chris is an example of a guy that really took this horribly unthinkable, unfathomable tragedy and used it, wisely. He's one of the smartest. His EQ is off the charts.
Yeah.
And Jen, I mean,
and Rose too.
Yeah, Rose.
When Rose quotes the "I like me" line in your documentary, the way that is edited together,
goosebumps, right?
Actual chills, because that line is, obviously, and that scene is so surreal, because if you watch Deadpool Wolverine, you see that scene in the car with you and Hugh when Hugh is laying into your character and you're just listening, just like John Candy's character is listening.
And just a side note, you can cut this out if you want.
Planes, Trains, and Deadpool.
But I mean, that speech, Sean and I wrote that speech like in a minute. Like it was just blah, and came out. And there's a piece of stage direction that I added that basically says like after he just goes hard on me, and Hugh has just said like I've had more lines in this one scene than I've had collectively in every movie featuring Wolverine.
Yeah.
All in one scene. He just unloads on me on Deadpool, and it goes too far. He pushes too far.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make sure that you see it, because you see it on Steve Martin's face in that motel.
You see it on your face.
Yeah,
you do.
And you feel it, but
through the mask.
But the stage direction says a flicker of regret crosses his iris, and it is gone before he notices or we notice. And Hugh is so good and surgical that he gives you that in this fleeting second, like it's a blink and you missed it moment, and it's beautiful. Like, I'm glad I was wearing a mask, because when I was like doing his coverage, the camera's right over my shoulder, and I'm just going,
yeah,
like, I can't believe he's just so good in that scene.
Yeah,
I love. By the way, a superpower is being obviously enthusiasm is a superpower, because you can't make anything good without enthusiasm. But like, I am starstruck still when I work with people. Like when I see somebody walk on the set, Helen Mirren, or like, you're just like, I just can't believe that I'm about to work with this person. Once you're working, you're in your element, right? So that goes away. But that's that initial moment. But I still have that with, like, Hugh and I have been best friends for like 17 years. Yeah. I still get starstruck with him. I mean, it's like an amazing feeling, and I'm grateful for it.
Yeah, it's an amazing scene. I'll get you out in these last couple ones. I know you're busy, and thank you for your time, genuinely. Please. I mean, I have so many things, and obviously you've seen the notes here, but there's a movie called Babylon. I'm curious if you've ever seen it. Damien Chazelle.
3 times.
Okay, so you know the scene in the film when Brad Pitt goes into the office to meet Gene Smart, and Gene Smart's written this article about essentially the end of Brad Pitt's character's career.
Yeah.
And there's a genius element to that
the Walter
scene.
Winchell of the day, or whatever, the gossip columnist.
Incredible character, but an amazing scene. And in that scene, she essentially tells Brad Pitt that, like, in 100 years, someone's going to turn your work back on, and you're going to come back to life, essentially, on the screen. So as I'm watching the John Candy doc, I'm watching John Candy essentially come back to life within the clips that you're showing. I'm just curious what that means to you, to think, and it's kind of a dark question, but like, when you're gone, that you will come back to life on someone's screen. And do you think about the story that your work has told that you will then leave to future audiences?
First off, I've been dead for 7 years. But I do think it's interesting, because like, it's why I love you so much, is that you see films kind of how I see them, in the sense that like amazing high quality movies are. I can appreciate the craftsmanship. Sometimes they don't land for me. They don't resonate. And then other times they do. They become like almost biblically important. And the same with pop culture movies that like really hit in pop culture. They aren't so much about the movie as they are a feeling and a place. They become a feeling and a place to me. And you don't always know what movie's going to do that. I have movies that I get quoted back to me all the time that when I was making them, I never would have guessed.
Like which ones?
Like Just Friends is a good example. Like, I cannot tell you how many times I get, someone walking by, saying, I'm busy, dick, or like, so long, Bucktown, or New Jersey, people ski in their jeans, which is a line I pitched to my buddy on the movie, and he's like, just like crushed it. And I remember that, like, it's those kinds of things that for some reason they hold weight, so I think, like, I watch TCM chronically.
Yeah.
Like, it's always on.
It's good. It's a good background thing.
Amazing.
Yeah, it is.
And it fills me with a sense of optimism. It fills me with like it's gossipy in a certain sense that, like, it's non-invasive or harmful. It's like, oh, wow, like in the 40s, that salacious thing happened. Like, you're not, like, nobody's going to care about that now. So it's kind of like a healthier version of that. And I also just really find that some of these movies are a place. Like, I watch Gaslight, to Charles Boyer and Ingrid Bergman. Like, I just like, whoa, I mean, what a duo that is. And Charles, boy, is just eating the shit burger in this movie. There's no part of him that's like, I'm going to have to find enormous redemption in this role somewhere. It's like a hard thing to do. A Face in the Crowd is one of the greatest, I think, films ever made that is so relevant today, and something that I desperately would love to see remade. And I'm not a big remake guy. I just think that one's a good one. But yeah, I think that the answer that I think is most prescient about what you asked is that, like, I tend to look around now and I look at all my peers and I know where I started from, and a lot of the people I came up with have gone back to their hometown, they're dead, unfortunately, or they're, who knows, like missing in action. This is a very, very hard business.
Yeah.
It can really eat people alive.
And the ups and downs.
Well, it's the ups and downs, but you're also farming out your self-worth for some of the wrong things a lot. And it makes advocating for yourself very tough, right? But I look around at the same time and I see the ones that have made it this far. Now, the people that are like really high caliber, whatever you want to evaluate them with, are they A-list or whatever, they're generally like really kind. They're generally like really nice people. It's like sometimes it's like the guy that's not quite established himself, but he's been at it for a long time, and there's like a lot of rage there, and you're kind of feeling it, and like suddenly his process is our process, and you're having a tough time, and like that happens more often than not. But like, kind of being a team player and really like understanding the value of collaboration and saying I don't know, and really like being on a set and welcoming that stuff in. I know I'm doing a good job as a producer when the boom operator pitches me a joke. I can tell you one. I mean, Adam Project. I remember I was sitting there, I was like trying to figure out, I'm looking at my younger self in this scene, and we're on this beach at this cabin, and I'm looking at my younger self, and I'm like, I hate him, right? And I'd say, look at him, isn't he just precious? Don't you just want to, just squeeze him till just the bones make sounds, And the boom op goes, hey, what about, don't you just want to hold him underwater till the bubbles stop? And I'm like, that's awesome. Yes.
That's the same tone as the joke in Yellow Belly when John Candy shoots the mom and the son, and that was like that big moment for Conan. It's like this dark thing, but it works.
But it's so funny.
But why does that work?
First off, it works because like they understand the tone is very important, right? But also it works because you're on a pretty safe set if the boom op's going like, what about this? Like you've done a good job if that's the kind of place you're working at. And I really take pride in the movies that I've produced, like properly produced. That like the experience with the last day of shooting is a fucking funeral. It is so sad.
I can't imagine.
Because everyone's really enjoyed themselves, and that's because you show up ready to play and be prepared, but also ready to pivot and listen to your movie. It'll tell you all these things. So, and the last thing I want to say, I know it was a multi-tiered question.
No.
But like, when I look around at my peers, which is where I was going with that story, is that they're the ones that are on TCM. When they're doing a retrospective of the Cary Grants and the, and the John Garfields and the, the niece or nephew of Debbie Reynolds, or like, that's what's those are the people we're looking around at now, and particularly like guys that like John Candy, who worked as a persona. They were comedians. Comedians are canonized after they die, like unlike any other profession. Like, it's so odd to me. When John Candy died, they closed the 405. The cops sat at every exit and saluted as his funeral procession went past. Like, it's just a different thing that happens with them because it's easy to sort of underappreciate them. I think John, at the time when he died, there were journalists that said all kinds of brutal stuff, and you go, and then in time, as it inexorably marched forward, he became a saint. And now he's a place and a feeling that we get to visit. You can say, well, that scene wasn't perfect, or that, what scene is? Like, I don't know. Like, just because I love a movie, you don't have to. And I think that's what's beautiful about movies. You get those people who are like, oh, that was the worst movie I've ever seen, or he's the worst actor I've ever seen. And usually that's a hack saying that.
Yeah.
I remember other actors saying that about like a really established actor, and I would hear like, he's the worst? Like, really?
Yeah.
Like if that's the worst, we're all fucked. Like, because that's a standard right there. That's a bar. So yeah, I think we're sitting around in the high school cafeteria eternally. And we're looking around at our peers, and these are the ones that they'll be talking about in the retrospectives on TCM and in 40 years' time. And, their sons and daughters will be talking about their dad and their mom and their, and saying, like, this is what they were really like. That's legacy right there, right? Like, that's kind of how you want to be remembered for, like, were you a good person when nobody was watching? And that's like, that really is, I think, this sort of gold standard in this business, because you don't have to be. If you're winning in this business, you don't have to be. You can be a dick. You can be late. You can be all those things. It's the people that are winning, yet they continue to maintain like a sense of professionalism and integrity. Those are the guys like I just love and look up to.
Last thing for you before we go, Cynthia Erivo.
Yeah.
By the way, there was everything you just said in that answer I wish I could follow up on. I know we're up against the clock here.
We're all good, yeah. Well, it's a long relationship you and I have.
Yeah. Cynthia Erivo.
Yep.
The song that she has at the end of this documentary, it's hinted at the beginning of the documentary. I also think some of it's in the trailer as well.
Yeah.
Music is our bridge to people in a way. Like that, when she sings, I feel John's soul.
Right.
And I was just curious about why Cynthia and obviously her voice, and kind of when you heard her sing that, what did it give you?
Well, first off, she was over at my apartment and hanging out, and we were talking about that Paul Young song, and it was sort of like, it's called, because it's got a, every time you go away, it's a kind of long title, we were just like, what? And then I get home and there's a voice note that she texts me saying, is it this one? And she sings a bit of the song, and it sounds like that, right? And I love that song, she says, or something, and it was like incredible. You should play it on here. I'll send it to you so you could hear it.
Please.
Yeah. So like,
I'll add it in the edit.
There you go.
Is it the song that goes like, I think it's this one, which is one of my favorites. Every time you go away, you take a piece of me with you. Ooh. Every time you go away, you take a piece of me with you. Is that the one?
She does that, and then I just said to her, what would it take to get you to, and she went, of course, before I even got the sentence out. And I had in my mind an idea I wanted to redo this song with a gospel choir and stems from Paul Young. And it would have been great. It would have been amazing. But this weird moment happened where we're listening to the movie, right? Yeah. Where Cynthia comes on, who Cynthia Erivo is, and I want this on the record, pound for pound, I think the most talented human being in the industry.
I would agree with you.
She's 12, 15 disciplines.
It's insane.
And does everything flawlessly.
Yeah.
And like
effortlessly.
Yes.
It feels like it.
Yeah. If anyone in this business like deserves to just be at the top of the mountain, because she's also kind and dedicated and hardworking, it's Cynthia Erivo. I can't say enough about her talent and humanity. But she sent this, and she made this song 2 weeks later. She and Will Wells, this producer, is just incredible. And I got to go watch them sing it. She just made this song. It was totally different than what I had imagined. It captured John in every way, shape, and form. Like, it felt like she channeled everything you want, everything you love, the hope, the sadness, all in one kind of movement. And it was bizarre. It was like I hate saying this, but it was like watching an alien do something. You just, something like introduce a color that didn't exist a few minutes ago. You're just like, what? How?
Where'd that come
from? Yeah. And I'm so grateful to that. I love that feeling where you're like in the 70s, the collaboration of like, hey, do you mind jumping in? Like, I'll pretty much do a cameo for anyone. Like, I like the economy of kindness in show business. Yeah. And people do it for me too. And it's the best when people show up. Cynthia Erivo, she shows up.
Well, you showed up today. thank you so much for being here. This has been an absolute honor to have you on my show.
You're going to struggle to get rid of me, Kevin. I'm going to be coming back all the time.
Once a week.
I think we do a double date, get Hugh Jackman in here, have some fun.
Absolutely love that.
Anytime someone drops out, call me.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you, buddy.
Appreciate it, man. Love you, man.
Love you too.
Thank you.